Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of TCG Talk, back today with another video. And in today's video, I'm going to be giving my first impressions on Vinset, Iron Maiden as a hero, kind of giving my initial thoughts on a first build, and just really try to get your head churning when it comes to different ways you could potentially build her, and kind of go from there. If you like this type of content, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. If you're a long-standing supporter, y'all are amazing. Keep it up. Anyone who's around, feel free to check out the Patreon and the Discord down below. The Patreon gives you access to my videos early, and the Discord is access to a great community with over 400 members, going strong, doing really well. So we're going to get right into this. So I wanted to go and do my initial build of Vinset just for fun. I think Vinset's going to be a hero that's going to have to be massively explored on the best way to build her. I think there's several ways you can build her. I think you can build like a mini go wide Vinset with 2 cost or less attacks, play Seeds of Agony, really like make the most of both her abilities very consistently. And I think you also can play a go tall build, which is what I came up with, which is 9 to 10 damage a turn on normal turns, 8 to 10 damage with the potential of like 14 to 17 damage turns depending on how things go. And you can really like make the most of your turns. So when I first initially built it, we'll talk about the equipment first and I'll talk about the deck. So equipment, Carrion Husk, there's a couple different choices you could have here. Carrion Husk is the obvious initial choice, right? If you own it, really good 6 block. I mean, it allows you to basically not block a turn and set up for a really big turn. Super, super useful. However, you could run Tunic. It's always a good option as well, because I think having 1 extra resource within set actually is going to be really useful a lot of times. And you also could run this piece, which I think will be a pretty cheap. If you don't own a Carrion Husk, but you want block as your chest piece, I don't see this card being more than like 30-40 bucks compared to 160 for Carrion Husk. And the 3 block is really nice with Arcane Barrier, so that will be a good one. But right now I have Husk. Headpiece, I think Crown Province is the best for her right now. I don't see another one. Skull Cap's another option too if you want a slightly cheaper version. Arm Piece, Grasp the Arknight's the main one, just for the block. Again, having all this block is super nice. You also could run, though, Vexing Quillhand, which could be really good for like a combo turn if you really need those rune chants. And then Spellbound Creepers. But if you don't own Spellbound Creepers, Suckcliffe Suede Hides actually might be pretty decent, which is really funny. That card actually might be a lot better, but Creepers is the best option. The biggest contention point is Flail, and it's something I really want to test, and I need to test harder, is Flail versus Nebula Blade. I think both of them are good in different ways. They both create that rune chant potential, but Nebula Blade makes a little bit more, like it gives a breakpoint attack, right? All you gotta do is play a non-attack and then play Nebula Blade for 4, and that's super, super nice. And there's nothing that buffs Nebula Blade, which is not as fun, but just that extra damage is really nice. So I want to play with both of them, but it costs 2 resources, whereas this just costs a life. So that's the equipment piece. When it came to building the deck, since I'm building a go tall deck where I'm pretty much wanting to do 1 big pumped attack a turn and then maybe do 2 attacks on like a swingy turn, I use the same principles that I used in my Azalea deck, right? A lot of the newer Azalea decks are really go tall. Yes, you can go wide with Bolt and Shot, but really it's about going tall. So the ratios to one of the biggest things in Azalea is you don't want to have a turn where you don't draw into an arrow. You always want to draw into 1 arrow a turn at least, right? Preferably maybe even 2, so you can pick which arrow you want to do, but it all depends. And in most Azalea decks, people are running as low as 21 arrows, but really they're running about 24-ish is the average. It can go as high as 27. So because of that, I use like that same principle when it came to building Blood Debt or Rune Gate cards. So I have 27 total Blood Debt cards in this deck, and I have 18 Rune Gate cards. So, and I have 27 total attacks. So, I think, yeah, 27 total attacks. So we'll do the Rune Gate cards first. Deathly Delight's the initial one. This card's so good. So it doesn't have a significant on hit, but it basically replaces the life that you spent with Vinset's ability, and you gain a life. So the good thing about this card is Vinset's second ability reads, whenever you play a shadow non-attack action card, you may pay a life. If you do, the next rune chant effect that would deal damage this turn can't be prevented. So basically you're paying a life for a life, which is really thematic and cool. But if you have a turn, so basically you can have a turn where you banish Deathly Delight, start your turn, make a rune chant. Then you pitch a blue, yellow, red, whatever, it can be any color, pay 1 for Envelop in Darkness. You create another rune chant, so now you have 2. And your next rune gate turn gets this card. This turn gets +3. Go again, and then you play Deathly Delight for free because of its rune gate text, right? And you play Deathly Delight for 8. And since they can't prevent that rune chant, since you've lost life this turn, your opponent's lost life this turn, you'll gain 2 life. So essentially, you'll gain the life back that you lost, and you'll gain additional life. So this is coming for 8, and you gained a life. So it's 9 value. It's pretty good on a 3-card hand. 9 value on a 3-card hand is pretty solid, I think. So that one's really good. I'm running 6 Deathly Whale. This is like a mini Mobs guys in a way. Think about the same sequence I just spoke about with Deathly Delight. Basically, you'll create 2 rune chants every time you can prevent that art. Make sure that rune chant can't be prevented, because you'll lose life, your opponent will lose life, and it says when this combat chain closes, create rune chant tokens equal to the number of heroes who have lost life this turn. Really good. So in that same sequence, right, you banish Deathly Whale at red, then you pitch any color, play Envelop in Darkness, create a second rune chant. You're going to have to find a way to get that third rune chant, but if you can, then play Deathly Whale for free at 9, and then create 2 rune chants, right? So really, really good. Well, and it'd be 9 physical and 1 arcane, so it's 10. So yeah, 10 total damage, and you're making 2 rune chants. And then this line was technically 9 total damage, gaining 2 life. So you can see how like this is really, really good if you can constantly pay that life. You just have to manage your life total a little bit. We then have Swarming Gloomveil. This one's a kind of a iffy for me. As good as this card is, the thing with Vinset is your initial thought for playing Swarming Gloomveil would be, I want to go a little bit wider. Maybe I can play Swarming Gloomveil into a Rune Gate card, right? The problem is, yes, this is always going to have Go Again because you make that initial Rune Chant from Vinset at the beginning of your turn, but it also pops your Rune Chants when you attack with it, right? So if you don't have a Mauve Skies or something to pair with it, it can get a little dicey because you create that Rune Chant, and let's just say your hand is Deathly Delight, Swarming Gloomveil, we'll say Blue Oath the Arknight, and even Envelop in Darkness, which is pretty good, right? That's actually not too bad. You banish Deathly Delight, create a Rune Chant, then you play Swarming Gloomveil for 3 and 1, you pop your Rune Chant, you pitch your blue to play Envelop in Darkness for +3, create this, and then play this. So you can do a little bit with it. Essentially, you'll be doing like 10 plus damage turns, but in some instances, this could screw you because that same play line doesn't work with a 3-cost Rune Gate card. It has to be a 2-cost Rune Gate card. So it's a little dicey. Still thinking about it, honestly. Unhallowed Rites, you have to play a non-attack action to play this from your banish zone, but in Vinset, that's going to be really easy to fill. And when you play it, you may put a non-attack action card with Blood Debt from your graveyard on the bottom of your deck. I like this because it allows me to cycle in Shadow Puppetry back, Runic Reckoning. It'll allow me to cycle in any of my pumps, and I want to keep cycling in my pumps, which would be really, really nice. So that one's obvious. Phantom Wraith, this one's just a 2 for 6. It's like a slight step down from Phantom Banshee, right? Phantom Wraith, it's just a cold 2 for 6, but if you can fulfill its Rune Gate text, then it's a 0 for 6, and I just like the value that you can potentially get out of this. Then your 2 big hitters are Widespread Annihilation and Widespread Ruin. So the biggest thing with Vinset that's a little bit interesting, and I'll talk about this when I talk about Mauve Skies, Vinset doesn't have a lot of on-hits. At least she doesn't have a lot of on-hits that affect her opponent. They're really just to enable herself, right? It's similar to how Viserai works. Viserai, other than like Consuming Volition, really doesn't have a lot of on-hits. His on-hits come through, I'm going to create more damage, right? So that's where Mauve Skies come into hand. But these 2 cards, Widespread Ruin and Widespread Annihilation, actually do have pretty significant on-hits. It's a 2-cost Rune Gate. Says when this combat chain closes, each hero who has lost life this turn banishes the top card of your deck. For you, that might not be that big a deal because you're running a lot of Blood Debt, but for your opponent, you're basically milling them a card, which is really, really nice. So you deal 6 damage and mill a card, not too bad. It's pretty good value. Widespread Annihilation is the best one. This is the best on-hit for Vinset, and I can see why they made it 4 cost. It's free if you can get 4 Rune Chants. If not, it costs 4 to play. It goes in for 6. When the combat chain closes, each hero who has lost life this turn banishes a card from their hand. So for you, if you have a one like blood deck card left over, that's not that big a deal. You can just banish it and maybe even set up a 5-card hand. For them, it's a little bit worse because you're basically ripping a card from their hand. And if you compare this with Vinset's second ability, it gets really, really crazy because they can't prevent that rune chant, so they're going to discard a card no matter what. And then you tell your opponent, well, if you're gonna banish a card out from your hand no matter what, you might as well just block this. So you're forcing interaction. Really, really good card. And then finally, my other blood deck card, I have Shadow Ursa in here. Just really good to go, a little wide if I need to, and it's a 3-block. I just figured it'd be a good addition to start off. Some notable exclusions that you probably aren't seeing from attacks are like Bounding Demigod and Riftbind. I do think those are decent if you're running more of a lower the ground list. I'm just running a go tall build, so they're not as useful for me, to be completely honest. Then we go into the non-attacks. First thing is Mob Skies. I think you run a 9 of this. If you do not run this, your rune chant generation is a little bit harder. It's not impossible. It's just harder. This, basically, you're telling your opponent, one, you're going to give the next Runeblade attack action go again, so you're going to give Deathly Wail go again. All these are Shadow Runeblade, so it works for all of these, right? None of these are just Shadow attacks. Yeah, it's going to force that, and you might not always want to attack after that, right? If you banish Deathly Delight making a rune chant, and then you pitch an Oathjark Knight, let's just say to play Envelop in Darkness, giving it +3, make another rune chant, all of a sudden it's free. However, if you play a yellow Mob Skies, now you're telling your opponent, hey, this is coming in for 9 damage, and if it hits, I'm going to create 2 more rune chants, which means at the start of my next turn, because of my Vinset ability, I'm going to start with 3 rune chants, which means I can play any card, with the exception of Widespread Annihilation, for free. So super good. On top of the fact that it just creates points of damage, right? So I think you have to run 9 of mobs. I don't see in any build and set where this card is not at least a 6 of. Maybe not a 9 of, but definitely a 6 of. Envelop in Darkness, I've talked about this several times. It is a 2-block, but I understand why. Next attack action card with Rune Gate this turn gets +3, which for us is 18 out of 27 of our attacks. The only things that aren't Rune Gate are Swarming Gloomveil, Unhallowed Rites, and Shadow of Ursa. But even those are up for debate depending on how you want to play. I just like their abilities. But Envelop in Darkness, giving them something +3 and creating a rune chant. Basically, when you have this card in your hand, any 2-cost Rune Gate card in your hand that turn is going to be free because you're going to banish it at the start of your turn, create a rune chant, then make a rune chant with this card. It's almost like a Viscerai ability, right? So, super nice. Howl from Beyond, just a good generic +3 Shadow non-attack. You want Shadow non-attacks to help trigger Vinset's second ability. So like this will trigger Vinset's second ability. This will trigger Vinset's second ability. Cards like Oathjark Knight won't, so that's something you have to keep in mind. And then Shadow Puppetry will trigger her ability. So really you only have 9 non-Shadow non-attacks in this deck, which does mean her second ability won't be triggered as often. And that's something you have to keep in mind. I think for me, most of the other Shadow non-attacks just aren't worth what they are. And I know in my last video I wasn't aware or wasn't confident on why Vinset can make Eloquence tokens, but I think the reason they did that is because a lot of this, if you look at a lot of the Shadow non-attacks in the deck, a lot of them don't have Go Again, right? Funeral Moon doesn't have Go Again, but that's a good option. I'm not saying don't run this. It's just my initial, I'm not running it. Requiem of the Damned doesn't have Go Again. A couple other ones that were big didn't have Go Again. If I even take off Runeblade, right? Because a lot of them were just shadow actions. Dimensional Vortex doesn't have Go Again. So several cards don't have Go Again. Grim Feast doesn't have Go Again, even though it's more of a tech card or, gaining life card. So it really depends on how you run. You could run a heavy shadow build, or you could kind of do what I'm doing, which is a mix of Runeblade and shadow. Definitely going to make changes as time goes on. Oathjark Knight is really good. I think +3 make a rune chant. It's basically Envelop in Darkness, but it's a block 3 and it costs 1 more. I think it's really good though. And it works for any of your attacks, not just Rune Gate attacks. Runeblood Incantation, this is good just to guarantee you have 2 rune chants every turn if you play this, because you're going to make a rune chant from Insensibility, and this is also going to tick down 1. So as long as one of these is on the field, you start your turn with 2 rune chants essentially, which is super nice. Runic Reckoning, this actually might be good in Viscerai too. This costs 1 less for each rune chant you control, which means in Vinset this will always be free, as long as you have something to banish. The next Rune Blade attack action card you play this turn gets +3, and it has a 3 block. So basically it's a 0 for 3 block in Vinset. Super, super nice. Shadow Puppetry, it's kind of an obvious inclusion. We also have Spellblade Assault in here just to create some rune chants when we need to. I didn't go over that one in the attack section. But yeah, this is a good start for me. I definitely think like you could go the Shadow route. I think you just have to find a way to give them Go Again more, which might not be as consistent. Some other inclusions that I didn't put in the main board. I think Read the Runes is good. I saw some people comment on my last video about it. My worry with Read the Runes is you have to either A, give it Go Again somehow with Eloquence, or B, keep 2 cards in hand, because you can't block. It's not like Viscerai. Viscerai, like there's sometimes where you can block with 3 cards, play a Read the Runes, get 3 rune chants set up. You can't do that in Vinset because you're going to banish your Read the Runes if it's the only card in your hand on your offensive turn. So you have to be a little bit careful on hand management. So it's a little bit dicey of a card for me. I don't know if it makes the cut. Command and Conquer is just an obvious one. These are sideboard cards initially. Reduce the rune chance, a good option as well. Being able to create a rune chant on your opponent's turn would be really nice, especially if you end the turn on rune chants from like a card hitting. Widespread Destruction. This definitely could be a main board card. I see it as a sideboard card just because the other cards are a little bit more impactful. Yes, this card banishes a card from Arsenal, but you might banish a card from your own arsenal. It all depends. This card might make the main list. It's just a 3 cost at yellow, so it was a little bit heavy for me, but this is really good against like Lexi, Bolton, anybody who cares about their arsenal. And then the other was the one of Oblivion. I don't know if you mainboard this or not. The token, the Nazareth Soulhour token, you know, if we go to the cards really fast, I know I did this in the last video, but I'll do it in this video too. This card is really good. It's a 6 card, you know, a 6 power token, and it's really, really nice. But is it worth running that one up? Because it's going to be really hard to have 6 rune chants in Vinset. I'm not going to lie to you. It says, when Nazareth hit the hero, banish a card from their soul. If a light card is banished away, you gain a life. So this text is pretty much blank unless you're playing a light hero. But it is a 6 power 6 that doesn't cost anything to swing with. So still a really good card, and something you could think of. Also, yeah, don't mind the name; it's fine. No one knows. So yeah, really, really good. I think there are some other inclusions. Like I said, I think Nebula Blade, something you could think about, would be really good. I think a lot of the generic Shadow non-attack action cards would be pretty nice. Like even if we do type here and we do action cards, and you do Shadow, you know, you have cards like Tome of Torment, which if you have Eloquence tokens. Another one that I didn't put in here that I think is going to be an obvious one I should have put in is Tear Through the Portal. I didn't even think about that. Choose a red card in your banish zone. It gets Go Again until the end of turn. All of our attacks that are Blood Debt are red, with the exception of Deathly Wail and Widespread Annihilation and Shadow Verser. So if you have a red heavy deck, this definitely could be an inclusion for sure. I just didn't have it in, but I think I'll end up probably putting that in. It is like another Maw of Skies, which is really, really nice. But it is a 2 block, so it depends. I think this could be really good because this is going to be a cycle, Tear Through the Portal. It's going to be at yellow and red. I'm assuming yellow is going to be choose a red attack action, right? And then choose a blue attack action. It gets Go Again until end of turn. That'd be some really cool. I'm pretty sure it's a cycle. If we look at it really fast here, if y'all can be patient for 2 seconds. Tear Through the Portal is going to be at yellow and blue. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure because of that, it's going to say if it's a yellow card, it gets Go Again. If it's a blue card, it gets Go Again at the cycle. So that's definitely an inclusion as well. So there's a bunch of different ways you can build Vinset. Hopefully this kind of made sense from like a ratio and like just a thought perspective, maybe to get you started. If you have a different way you're going to be building Vinset, let me know. I'd love to know because I think she has some cool design space you can explore and really, you know, make the most of a build. So yeah, if you enjoy this type of content, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. If not, go to our Flush Mode career, leave a like, comment, subscribe on their stuff so you can get more people seeing this game. Let me know how I could do better if it's something I did wrong. And yeah, I'll see y'all next time on TCG Talk. Thank y'all so much. Have a nice day.